morning. I'm the Reverend Rachael Hayes, minister of the Unitarian Universalist Society of Amherst. Welcome to you, old friends and new, young and old, in the Zoom and in the sanctuary. You are an essential part of our celebration today. Whether today is your first or your 1000th Sunday in our midst, we are stronger because you are with us. We are one people of many beliefs, many origins, sexualities, and genders. We are all growing, all learning, all loved. Just as you are welcome here. Today, we are holding our rage. If you're joining us by Zoom, you might like to find paper and pencil to participate in our ritual of rage and lament coming up later in the service. Our call to worship comes from the Reverend Gretchen Haley. Behind every angry impulse to turn over the tables and swing the baseball bat hard, crashing the car glass, or at least comment repeatedly in all caps, there is a heartbreak. The unseen softness of longing to be seen and known and loved, to be given a voice and a choice, to feel a part of something greater without losing yourself. Into this circle, bring it all. Every untamed tear and every embrace, every unfiltered fear and every mission of courage and love held deep in your chest, ready to be unleashed. Every hope for our children and the world we want to give them, and the grief at the gap of our current realities. Bring your joy at spring's abundance and your gratitude for rain, and remembering the movement of partners living and dead who journey with us and call us to keep going, keep loving, keep wanting more life. Come, let us worship together. In the name of love and life, fueled by anger and a deep yearning for justice, we light our chalice. May it burn as a beacon on the path to liberation and shine as a witness to how far we have to go. Okay. So we're going to hear a story about the goddess Kali and the demon Rakhtabijah. Do you know, does anybody know this story? No, I just learned this story. So this story comes from India, out of the Hindu traditions, and it's not really a story about human people, except in the way that all stories that human people tell are stories about human people. It's been told lots of ways for 1,400 years, and I only have time to tell you one version today. It is, yes. So it's the picture, this picture is the story. But first, I want to practice something important with all of you, and all of you, and all of you. And I know that everybody who is in the room with me right now is wearing masks, but we're gonna make faces. Yeah? Okay, so can you stick out your tongue even behind your mask and make an angry face? All of us, yeah? Yeah, and you gotta make it with your eyes too, right, Maya? You gotta make the angry eyes, yeah. Awesome. Okay, so this is a story about how an angry face saved the whole world. Yeah? The Hindu traditions are full of lots of gods and goddesses, and in this story, demons kicked the gods and goddesses out of their heaven and locked them out. And the mother goddesses got together to fight the demons. Yeah, you see it on there? Yeah. So they killed several of the demons, but they could not kill Rakhtabijah. And that's because Rakhtabijah had this special power where every time a drop of his blood hit the ground, it made a whole new Rakhtabijah. So you see lots of Rakhtabijahs in the lower right corner there, more and more of them, and their blood is making more Rakhtabijahs. So, yeah, the bottom corner is the Rakhtabijahs. Yeah. So, Goddess Durga, who is close to them and fighting them on the tiger, she got really upset. She was angry. The white tiger. Yeah. I should have brought a laser pointer. So she got so angry that the goddess Kali came out of her head. And the goddess Kali is this blue one at the bottom who is a little bit hard to see. And that's because her skin is dark, like the blackness before existence started. And she has 3 eyes, but you can't see them in this picture. She had 3 eyes to see the past and the present and the future, all at the same time. And she has 4 arms. Yeah. And so Durga was angry, but Kali was really, really, really angry. And so she stuck out her tongue and she caught every drop of blood before it could hit the ground. It's not good for you to drink that much demon blood. And it makes it really hard to calm down fast. So she stayed so angry and she started destroying everything in her path until a god, Lord Shiva, threw himself on the ground at her feet. And Kali loved Shiva, and she was like, oh, I don't want to hurt Shiva. And it made her realize she had to stop. And so she stopped destroying things until she had somebody she needed to protect again. And more life began to grow where Kali had destroyed, like life coming back after a forest fire. Kali is the goddess of destruction and creation, of death and birth, of anger and blessing. So can you stick out your tongue and make an angry face like Kali? Really strong, angry face. Okay. Do you all ever get angry? I do sometimes. Yeah. Yeah, and it's important to listen to your anger because it tells you when something is too much. It tells you when you need a break. Sometimes it tells you if something isn't fair. And you can use your anger to protect people, like Kali. But it's also important to know how to calm down, too. Like Kali needed some help calming down from one of her friends. So we practice Kali's angry face. Let's practice calming down, yeah? So my favorite way to find my calm is to take steady breaths. So find your Kali face. We're gonna start from there, yeah? Go. And then breathe in and keep breathing out. And after a little while, maybe you don't need to keep holding your Kali face, right? Because you have found your calm. Yeah? Oh, thank you. I had so much fun telling that story with you. And now for something different. Unitarian Julia Ward Howe wrote this Mother's Day proclamation in 1870. Arise, all women who have hearts, whether your baptism be that of water or of tears. Say firmly, we will not have great questions decided by irrelevant agencies. Our husbands shall not come to us reeking with carnage for caresses and applause. Our sons shall not be taken from us to unlearn all that we have been able to teach them of charity, mercy, and patience. We women of one country will be too tender to those of another country to allow our sons to be trained to injure theirs. From the bosom of the devastated earth, a voice goes up with our own. It says, disarm, disarm. The sword is not the balance of justice. Blood does not wipe out dishonor, nor violence indicate possession. As men have often forsaken the plow and the anvil at the summons of war, let women now leave all that may be left of home for a great and earnest day of council. Let them meet first as women to bewail and commemorate the dead. Let them then solemnly take counsel with each other as to the means whereby the great human family shall live in peace, each learning after his own time the sacred impress, not of Caesar, but of God. In the name of womanhood and humanity, I earnestly ask that a general Congress of women without limit of nationality may be appointed and held at some place deemed most convenient and at the earliest period consistent with its objects, to promote the alliance of the different nationalities, the amicable settlement of international questions, the great and general interests of peace. I asked some of the moms in our congregation what they need this year for Mother's Day. And after we got over the fact that it's a weird heteronormative holiday that doesn't feel relevant in some of our families, what they most reflected was the need to rage about how cruel and unfair our culture is to the people who are responsible for its continuity. The moms, the parents, are not okay. At least not the ones who are actively parenting in the greater part. They are living through burnout at work, burnouted parenting, trying to meet the needs of kids who are going through something none of us really understand. In some cases, taking care of aging parents at the same time. So when they rage, I try to listen. And I had already planned today's service to be one of rage and lament. And then we have another very specific reason to rage this week. The leaked draft majority opinion that says that the Supreme Court is reversing Roe versus Wade. I think we knew it was coming, but that doesn't mean it doesn't hurt. I remember the stories from Anne and Carolyn in our reproductive justice service, their testimony of what it was like to try to access abortion before Roe. And I imagined today's teenagers and young adults trying to navigate these things. Not so much here in Massachusetts, but almost certainly my own beloved cousins in Kentucky and other red states. The ones who have kids now and the ones who are kids. All along, Black women and femmes have reminded us it's not just reproductive rights. We need to have reproductive justice. Sister Song defines reproductive justice as the human right to maintain personal bodily autonomy, have children, not have children, and parent the children we have in safe and sustainable communities. It's not enough to have the legal right to abortion if you can't access it due to clinic closures, lack of money, multiple day visits. It's not reproductive justice when the right to abortion is only in case of rape, incest, or some other violation. It's not reproductive justice when parents can't afford healthy food or safe housing, or when their votes don't count because they live in gerrymandered districts. Reproductive justice has never existed, and the world is hungry for it. We rage against the erasure of trans and non-binaries' need for abortion too. Anyone who can get pregnant needs to be able to access abortion. We have told this story as being a women's issue, but it's not. For the last 50 years, our entire country has relied on the right to control our reproductive destinies. All of us need this. We will not have great questions decided by irrelevant agencies. Julia Ward Howe said this in her Mother's Day proclamation, and it feels so true today. Still, about war, but about reproductive justice too. As many people, including historian Letty Gore, remind us, this opinion opens the door for rollbacks of all sorts of civil rights, including same-sex marriage and interracial marriage. It opens up the idea that civil rights are the state's domain, not the federal government's. And for that, I rage. Rage, rage, and lament. Things to rage against or lament in no particular order. 1 million COVID deaths in the US. 2 years and 2 months of trying to find the most compassionate way through a pandemic. The unraveling of abortion rights in the US and the threat to all freedoms of body or privacy. There is still no vaccine for children under 5. There are shortages of infant formula. There are attacks on transgender children by state legislatures. The Black maternal mortality rate is 2.5 times higher than the average rate in this country. And I lament for people who miss their mothers, people who mourn their mothers, not having the nurturing you needed to properly thrive, not having the mother you needed maybe. For all who have lost a great mother or mother figure, for all who have lost pregnancies, for all who have lost children at any age, for all who are forced to carry pregnancies to term against their will, for all who risked danger and humiliation to have an abortion, for all who have struggled to access prenatal care, abortion, or any health care due to poverty, gender identity, disability, or any other reason. I lament the ways that adoption can be traumatic even when it's a blessing. Rage and lament against Russia's war on Ukraine and its impact on Ukrainian children, parents, and families. For everyone growing up or giving birth or raising families in war zones and refugee camps, missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls, child brides, and trafficked children here in the US and around the world. For every way that nurturing in our society has been devalued, in birth, in parenting, in caregiving, paid and familial, for the right to a living wage for educators, including paraeducators here in Amherst, for ever increasing inflation in a time of huge profits and corporate greed, for those who are evicted or priced out of neighborhoods where they hoped to make a stable home, for the destruction of our planet, for poverty and burnout and overwhelm, for injustice, for unfairness, for cruelty, for apathy, for suffering. For this I rage, for this I lament. And maybe some of you are walking around with a list like that every day too, and especially today. Instead of our regular joys and sorrows, today I invite you to write it down on those red slips of paper as much as you want, and then crush it into a ball. And then we're going to burn them. And if you have a passionate joy to keep the pot sweet, write it down too. Remember that Kali is a goddess of anger and blessing, after all. The paper and pencils are all around you, and you're welcome to grab what you need at home. Brenda will play music for us as we gather all of these emotions and put them on paper. And when you've finished writing, bring your ball of rage up to the front to burn in our cauldron. And I'll burn one for everyone who is with us by Zoom or YouTube too. And if you want to burn yours at home, make sure you have what you need to do that safely. Let us be brave enough to open our hearts to these large emotions. May they be purified like gold in the crucible of this ritual. This is a prayer for parenting in a pandemic for the third year in a row, by the Reverend Sarah Goodman. This is a prayer for the parents of children. This is a prayer for the parents of babies, the parents of teens, parents of young adults. This is a prayer, not sending someone thoughts and prayers kind of prayer, but a please someone help us prayer. It has been 2 years since the world shut down. It's been 1 year since people started to act as if things were normal. It has been 9 months since we were promised that our children would be protected. It'll come anytime now. We are waiting. This is a prayer to not be forgotten. We have held our babies in our arms while they look around, astounded that there are more than 5 people in the world, having spent the first year of their lives at home. We have held our young school children on our laps while they try to learn writing and etiquette and how to make friends through a computer screen. We have held our preteens as they struggle to make sense of themselves and the world when they aren't seeing each other, not able to play and talk and laugh as they need to. We have held our teens through more disappointed expectations than they ever deserve to have experienced in so few years. We have sent our young people off into the world not knowing what will be there for them when they get there. We have held our beloved children while they were sick, when they gave in to the loneliness, when they lost their way. And we have done this while trying to do our jobs or leaving our jobs because it was too much to do all of it, or losing our jobs and struggling with how do we care for our families now. And we have done all of that while having to make impossible decisions like, do I send my unvaccinated child to school with other unvaccinated children who won't be able to wear a mask correctly all day and risk exposing high-risk grandparents to a deadly virus? Or do I keep my child home where they will not get to play with other children for another year, where I will be constantly fighting with them about what work needs to be done, what food they don't want to eat, and doing my work in the hours they're sleeping? We tried everything. We have tried to parent alone. We have tried to pod with other families. We have tried to send them to school. We have tried to hire nannies. We have tried to do homeschooling. We have tried outschooling. We have tried nature schooling. We have tried everything. We have repeatedly wept when the things we try don't work, when guidelines made to keep our children safe have been rolled back one by one. We have been sick more times in this year than in the last 5 years, all of us in our families. We have had our resolve tested, our marriages strained, our relationships with our children torn to pieces. We have tried to be present for our children when they are angry, when they are weary, when they are despondent. And who has been here for us when we are angry, weary, despondent? We have watched our children suffer while we suffer, and there is no respite. This is a prayer to show you, oh beloved parent, that I see you. I know your heart is broken, and you are just trying to hold it together until things get better. This is a prayer, oh beloved Spirit of life, that things get better soon. Please, sometime soon, my heart, because it has been 787 days and there is no end in sight. For today, I offer parents this prayer. May your weariness ease. May your children grow strong and happy. May you find ways to feel like yourself from time to time. May you find healthy and sustainable ways to process this trauma and grief. And may you know that you are loved. Amen. And this is how I send you forth today. May the emotions you held during this service serve as reminders of what matters most. May they give you the strength as you do the next hard thing. Go in peace with the love of this congregation.